All right, balancers. Today's guest is here to talk with me about a subject I've only actually had a handful of guests on in the last 3 years on to talk about, but something and a conversation I think can be quite polarizing depending on where people stand on the matter. But I think knowledge is power. And when we talk about money, it can be quite empowering and liberating just to unpack a lot of the ways we maybe are currently doing things, ways we can do things better, and ways we can ultimately live the life we want to live. So today's guest is a recent graduate of the London School of Economics, where she was awarded as one of the UK's top 10 black students by Rare Recruitment and UK Corporate Finance Women of the Year by Ernst & Young. She's currently a banker at the world's biggest investment bank and began her YouTube channel to help others start their careers at top firms. After purchasing her investment property 6 months after graduating, she gradually transitioned her channel to cover more finance and wealth-related topics such as side hustling, investing, entrepreneurship, and general lifestyle content. All things I'm really excited to learn about and get to know about her. And our guest today is Lamide Elizabeth. Lamide, a warm welcome to the Balance Theory.
Thank you for having me here.
No, it's a pleasure. So just I guess to kick things off, so you studied economics, you kind of worked in the banking space. What made you pivot and want to start a channel to help other people? And I only ask this because I think there are a lot of people that enjoy what they do, but to stretch that then to, I guess, create content for other people is like a whole nother ballpark. I mean, I know how much work is involved as well. So what made you want to do that?
So what made me want to get started? So I always used to watch YouTube growing up, but at the time when I was watching YouTube, it was a lot of like family vloggers or like beauty vloggers, but I always knew I wanted to do YouTube, but I didn't really see anyone doing like in the field of like finance and money. It wasn't really about that. Like YouTube started off very much like fashion, games, beauty, family.
More like a vloggy.
Yeah, like very, very vlog focused, but it was always in the back of my mind. And I think with me coming from the background that I did, going to the places that I went to was actually quite unconventional. And so a lot of people who were from similar backgrounds from me had a lot of questions on how did you get into the London School of Economics and how did you get started in investment banking, because these things are quite like quite elitist as well, so it wasn't very usual for people from my background.
Sorry, can you just qualify what you mean when you say your background, just so listeners know?
Okay, so I grew up in London. I grew up in Hackney, which is like wasn't the best neighborhood to grow up in London. It was known for being quite rough. It's being gentrified now, but it was known for being quite rough. I also went to like a state school, not a very good school, and I'm like from a single parent household. So the statistics on what you are supposed to become coming from that kind of background, like where I am right now, like defies the odds of where I'm expected to be.
Sure.
So yeah, that's what I mean by that.
Okay, cool. And so growing up, was there anything in your upbringing that encouraged you to go into what you're studying now? I.e., did you have that kind of education from the single parent that raised you, through other influences in your life, or was this something completely? I know you already kind of prefaced it was an unconventional career, but was it something you were just interested in, something you were encouraged to study? Like, what kind of led you to actually jump into it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I feel like even by virtue of being like from the background that I was from, but living in London, you're kind of exposed to that dichotomy of like wealth and poverty, because like you may be living in poverty, but you're in one of like the richest cities in the world, and like you have all of these big buildings and these fancy buildings. So it was kind of like, okay, this is my situation, but like I can see that there is wealth around me. So that was always like attractive to me. And then also, I guess I kind of wanted to understand like, why am I where I am? Like what are the circumstances that have led me to be where I am? And then how do I get to the next level? And how are these people in the situations that they are in? I was always kind of interested in like that difference between wealth and poverty. And so my degree is actually like, I studied economic history. So it's not actually it's not history, it's not economics. You are actually studying the wealth and poverty of nations. So you're literally understanding, why are some countries rich? How did they develop the way that they have developed? And why are some countries lagging behind? So I've always had that interest. And for me, banking was like, it was like your one-way ticket, like out of the situation that I was in, because this is like it's one of the highest paid industries in London, right? So I was like, well, if I want to get paid and I want to change my circumstances, then banking is the way to go. My mom is a nurse, so she has, even till this day, obviously she knows what a bank is, but I think she thinks I work in like a, you know, like your local bank where you just go out. Yeah. Like, I think that's what she thinks it is. And she has no clue like what investment banking is. But kind of through education and kind of being like, I was that student that the teachers did really believe in, like when it got to a certain point. So they would push me in the right direction, but I was also super hungry. So I would be researching, okay, what programs can I access? What things can I do? And then I eventually like was getting myself into spaces where people who didn't come from the same background as me, we were doing the same programs. So I was getting opened up to those sort of opportunities. And then because I wanted to go into banking and because of my interest in just general, like understanding my poverty and then understanding like the wealth that is out there, I think it kind of led me towards like wanting to go into banking or wanting to go into something money related.
Super interesting. If you had to give your 18-year-old self advice, right, that's roughly around the year we all finished school, now in terms of money, right, and what you understand about wealth creation, what bit of advice would you give that you think would have made the world of difference? Because I can guarantee there'll be a lot of people listening. I mean, I'm a corporate lawyer now, but I have a background in banking finance law, and I can't honestly say I know exactly what an investment banker does specifically, right? I couldn't describe you the job role. So I'm curious to know, with your experience now, where you are after doing your channel for so much time, what advice would you give to your younger self or anyone listening who maybe their money education or finance education isn't up to scratch, or it's not something they've really opened up? What would you say to them?
You know what's interesting? At the age of 18, that was when I like started getting really clued up about money. So at that point, that was the first time I picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I actually took a gap year and I worked in an insurance company. And I was like, at this point, I was saving heavy because all of my friends had gone to university. So I had no one really around me. And I started making my first big girl money. Like it was like £1,000 a month or something like that. And I was like, okay, I have seen like people around me, like in my family, make a lot of money mistakes. I'm earning my first big girl paycheck, so I don't want to make this mistake. So I picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I started reading then. And I feel like I actually I don't think there's anything necessarily different that I would tell that girl, because she was doing the right things. Like I think I got switched on at the right time when it comes to money. So if there's anyone watching this who is at that age and you're thinking, money is something that, you know, I will deal with like when I get my first job outside of uni or when I start making 6 figures or something like that, your money journey starts really, really early. Like the habits that you pick up, the mindset that you have with money, that's something I always say, like it's like a muscle that you flex. Like people always ask me, like how are you so good at saving? How are you able to save so much? It started really early. It was a habit that I started when I had a little bit of money, and as I've made more money, my muscle with saving has only gotten bigger and better. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say. It's kind of an answer, kind of not really an answer, but yeah.
No, I get that. I guess like you had a genuine passion for it, so it was something that was organic for you. I want to talk about 2 things: mistakes and mindset. So let's go with the mistakes first. I know one of the things you talk about are things that many of us do that keep us broke, or that keep us from, I guess, reaching our financial potential. And I think this is interesting to understand, because I'm sure there'll be things that we maybe don't think about as being mistakes, or things that we could easily, you know, turn our attention to. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the common things that many of us are doing that are keeping us broke.
Oh, this is such an interesting one. I have like so many things that I could say, but the one that comes to my mind right now, I feel like a lot of us let our like previous maybe traumas kind of dictate our money decisions. And the reason that I say this is sometimes we do things not because like we are trying to impress other people, but because we are trying to impress the person that we were when we were younger. So for example, when I first started making money, I bought a lot of designer things. Like I started in investment banking, like you get paid really, really well. And I was buying all of these designer things. And it wasn't necessarily because I was trying to like flex on other people. It was just because I remember when I was younger and I would go into like certain designer shops. And you know, when you look at the label and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to put that back down. And I remember thinking like one day I'm going to be able to walk into the store and I'm going to be able to buy anything that I want. And I always wanted to have that feeling of I'm in this store, I can buy whatever I want. And I think that when I started getting money, I was having that habit of like, okay, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. And that was because I was still trying to prove a point to that younger version of me that you can buy anything that you want. And I think a lot of people have that, but they don't grow out of it. And so you're still trying to prove a point to your younger self, or you're still trying to prove a point to maybe people that you grew up with, that you have money. And, you know, we talk about lifestyle inflation, where you are trying to, instead of like having that wealth and like keeping that wealth to yourself, you want to put it on display so that other people know. Because maybe, especially from people from my background, right, where you have grown up without much, there's a tendency to really want to prove to people that you have something,
like you've made it.
Yeah, like you've made it, and even above the level that you are actually at. And it's like, in London especially, like luxury cars is like the norm. Like people will drive luxury cars on like salaries that aren't very high, because it's like, well, I've got to prove to people that I've got a job. I've got to prove to people that I have something. So this is the car I'm going to drive. And so I think just one, that like trying to prove a point to yourself and not really dealing with some of the money traumas you might have from growing up is one thing. I even remember I was watching a vlog like of someone, and she was saying that when she was younger, her mum always used to make them ration toilet paper.
I've
and
spent
so
a
now that
majority of
she's
my
older,
adult life delved into the world of personal finances and personal development. I've read a ton of books on the subject. I have a finance degree and an accounting diploma. I built a 9-to-5 career as an accountant. I built a business, was able to leave my 9-to-5 job to run my business full time, was able to take a 1.5-year sabbatical from working while still getting paid, might I add. And I've been able to get back into a consistent workflow that remains true to me, allows me to stay soft and feminine and loving and aligned with my true nature while still getting to the bag. And if there's one skill that I would say has allowed me to live this comfortably, it's financial management. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that I'm the end-all be-all educational coach on finances. I'm only 30 and I've got so much more life ahead of me, so many things to learn. Believe me, babe, we're here and we're getting into this bag together. But I will say that I have a very comfortable relationship with money that, if I could toot my own horn just a little bit, my love, even when I was making way less money and I was super close to the poverty line, I was still living comfortably. And people thought I made way more money than I did because of how I managed it. I wanted to talk about some of the mistakes that I see often made for my girls who are constantly working, constantly busy, but somehow still always living paycheck to paycheck and are having a really tough time financing the life that they desire. Now, if you are living paycheck to paycheck and you are comfortable there, then there's nothing to fix. And I genuinely mean that, because in my honest opinion, I think life is just about being happy. So if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're happy there, then don't worry about it. There's nothing to fix. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Keep going. But if you do find yourself in financial ruins often and you're not too sure how to get up out of there so that you can comfortably live the life of your dreams without money anxiety all the time, then maybe this is the video for you. So let's get into it. Back in the day, people used to try to keep up with the Joneses because the Joneses lived on the same street as them. Nowadays, people are trying to keep up with the Instagram streets, and they're paying for things with money that they don't have. The problem with not living below your means, regardless of how much you make, is that what you do with the little money is what you do with big money. So if you are thinking to yourself, right now I'm in debt, but it's only because I don't make enough money. If I made about 10K more, then I won't be in debt. You probably will still be in debt. You really have to understand that personal finances are personal for a reason. Hone in on what you have going on and mind your own pockets. Because sometimes the same people that you're trying to keep up with don't really got it like that either. They're thousands of dollars in debt as well. Or maybe they're not in debt. Maybe they really do got it like that, but you don't know where they skimp out on in order to afford the things that they have. So certain things that you want to spend money on, maybe it doesn't matter to them. So they don't spend money on that. It's just important for you to focus on your own plate. Stop looking at other people's plate, because your own food will get cold. So you might be thinking, how do I manage to live below my means? Not paying yourself first. Now, this is a principle that is prevalent in so many financial books. Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Wealthy Barber. We read Rich Dad Poor Dad inside of the Good Girls Gone Boss Society. It was one of our book club reads. Initially, when I heard about this, I was a bit uncomfortable with the idea of paying yourself first, because I thought, if you have so many bills, how can you possibly pay yourself first when you've got to pay those bills? I'm someone who always likes to pay my bills on time, but inside Richest Man in Babylon, they spoke about it in a way way that kind of made a light bulb go off in my head. We also had discussions about it inside the Girls Gone Boss Society, and you realize that a lot of those expenses that you were so eager to pay for that were essential, you find other ways to attain them, whether it's bartering, still buying a new car, but maybe it's a Toyota instead of a Lexus. Still traveling, but maybe you stay at a 3-star hotel instead of a 5-star hotel. It's still going on vacation, but maybe you go to Mexico instead of Maldives. Paying yourself first is essentially the principle of putting money aside for every paycheck that is for your future. So the rule of thumb is that you put away at least 10% of your paycheck before you pay for everything else. So most people pay for the now and then worry about the future afterwards. The problem with that is most people, when those future things pop up, they realize that they didn't accommodate for it at all. And now you're in your 60s living off of Social Security alone, or you bought the new car, but you didn't really factor for maintenance of the new car. A rock hits your windshield, you weren't expecting that expense, and now you've got to figure out how you're going to pay for it. Your computer stops working, and now you've got to pay for a computer unexpectedly, which just happened to me recently, actually, and I was so annoyed. I'm like, Apple, I just got this computer. What's wrong with you? But anyways, I digress. Let's talk about it another time. If you work a 9-to-5 job that matches your 401k or does any sort of contribution program in Canada, maybe contributing to your RSP, take advantage of that. You're not going to miss that money once it leaves your paycheck. Before it hits your bank account, you won't even notice. And to take it a step further, another thing you can do is put away 10% of your income to either your TFSA, an RSP, or just an emergency savings plan. Let me know if you'd like an in-depth video on how to pay yourself first, how I've paid myself first, and different ways that you can pay yourself to make it make sense for your financial goals. A general rule of thumb that's out there is to take 10% before you pay for rent, your car, a girl's night out, birthday presents, whatever. Take 10% and put it away for future goals, whether it's investing, saving, or both. Which brings me to my next tip, which is to have your emergency savings fund. I like to call it a peace out fund. Because guess what? One thing about it, if it's an environment, a person, a place, or a thing that is toxic and not conducive to my mental health, please believe I will be saying peace out. And it's because I've built up an emergency savings fund that has 3 to 6 months of expenses that allows me to pivot and figure out my next move. This is essential, my love. This is essential. You need this, friend. You need this because unexpected expenses are inevitable. They're going to pop up. It's not a matter of if you're going to have unexpected expenses, it's when you will have unexpected expenses. Whether it's your car, computer, travel, home repairs, a breakup, there could be so many unexpected expenses that pop up. And with an emergency savings fund, you feel confident knowing that you're giving yourself some time and some grace to figure out your next move or to replenish your emergency fund while you figure out your next move. An emergency fund, or as I like to call it, a peace out fund, is essential to your peace of mind. 3 to 6 months is recommended. If you work for yourself or live a very dynamic lifestyle, you might want to just keep a little bit like 6 to 9 months, or maybe even 9 to 12 months available, liquid, and on hand. But the best place to start is 3 to 6 months. And you're going to be able to do that by paying yourself first. Difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is considered debt that allows you to make more money in the future. For example, student loan debt, because the idea here is that you're going to attain a degree that allows you to earn more down the line. For example, if you have about 40K worth of student loan debt, but the idea is that graduating out of school, the salary for the job you'd be qualified for starts out at a range of 90K a year. Then that's worth it because the idea is that down the line, you'll be able to pay off that student loan debt very quickly. Another example is mortgage loan, because the idea is that your house is going to be building equity and you're going to have to pay money monthly anyways to live somewhere. Might as well be paying off a mortgage so that a portion of that is paid off and you get to retain that. But also, as real estate appreciates in value, you're also making money on that loan as well. So mortgage and student loans are examples of good debt. Bad debt, on the other hand, would be your Pretty Little Things, Revolve, Sephora orders going on your credit card and you haven't been able to pay it off. It would also be booking a vacation to go away on an extravagant trip, leisure vacations you don't have the money to pay for right now, so you put it on your credit card. It's the clothes, it's the makeup, it's the Amazon, it's the hair extensions. These are all consumer debts because it's not helping you necessarily to make more money. And I just know someone's watching this like, well, no, that Sephora order makes me really happy and that helps me to make money. Find therapy elsewhere. You cannot afford retail therapy if you're living paycheck to paycheck. find somewhere else to get your therapy. And interrupting really quick, because this is actually the perfect time to introduce today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Like many of us, I have faced my own challenges with adversities and just wanting to strengthen my skills of managing my mental health and managing my emotions better. There were times when I felt so overwhelmed with the responsibilities of adulthood, and I just feel like if I had found BetterHelp for support a lot sooner, it would have made things a lot breezier. So you might be thinking, well, if I just made about 10K more a year, I'll be able to get out of this infinite loop of constantly living paycheck to paycheck. But I will tell you from experience that how you handle small money is how you handle big money. Not just myself, but many other people that I know deal with money in the same capacity. You're taking those same principles, that same psychology, that same energy you have towards money when you were making 60K, you're applying to how you handle your 120K. There are people who make $500,000 a year and are considered a part of the 1%, and they still are living above their means.